and welcome to Multicultural channel. My name is Jazz Sharma and I'm a youth board member of Asian Women of Winnipeg. Welcome to our educational series. Today we will be talking about Indian classical dance. To talk about this, I'm joined with Shavira Narrandes, who is a senior Kathak instructor at the India School of Dance, Music and Theatre Incorporated. Thank you for joining us today.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Let's start off by asking, tell us a bit about yourself.
So my name is Shavira. I'm one of the instructors at India School of Dance. So I run all their Sunday classes. That includes Kathak and Bollywood dance. And then we also have some Odissi classes, which I don't teach, but I take as a student. I've been doing that for, I would say, just 15 years or so. But over the years, I gained more of a management position. And then I started dancing about 20 years ago. So that's when I first started doing Kathak dance. But on the side, that's just my side weekend thing. I'm also a physician assistant. So that's like a master's in medicine job where we assess patients and treat them as well, along with the other healthcare team. So that I just began doing. I finished school recently and started working in September. So that takes up my full time. And then
that's exciting.
Yeah.
You're beginning.
Yeah. And then other than that, I do my dance on Sunday. So it's a busy life.
Busy, but I feel like it's quite worth it. You get to have both of your interests happening.
That's true.
So what first got you into Indian classical dance, and can you tell us a bit about your journey?
Yeah, so when I first started, it's a funny story. So I actually wanted to do tap dancing.
Oh.
And I went up to my mom and told her I wanted to do tap dancing. And then she said, oh, well, I wanted to learn Indian classical dance and I was a kid, so I'll just put you into that instead. So that's how I got into it. I didn't want to do it.
Oh, okay.
But I began to love it because if for those of you who don't know Kathak, that's the style that I do, there's a lot of footwork. And instead of wearing tap dance shoes, we wear gunguru or bells. And it's kind of similar. We're just doing lots of footwork with bells that make all these sounds. So it was very fun. I did enjoy it. It's very complex. And then over the years, I made lots of friends in my dance classes. And then we did a graduation about 5 years after I started. And then I just continued. And some of my best friends come from my dance class. And that made it so much more fun.
That's nice.
And then I did another solo graduation. It's called a Rang Pravesh.
Okay.
So it was like a whole hour-and-a-half show of me dancing. So I did that in 2019. And that was just kind of the next step for me. But before that, so after I did my first graduation in 2009, I began teaching at the school in 2011. And then I kept on working towards it. And we brought in a teacher from Toronto. Her name is Pooja Kulkarni. And her guru or her teacher, Sandhya Desai, she was also my guru, but she recently passed. So I continued to learn from them and train with them for my 2019 show. And then in that time, I've just been teaching dance classes since. And then recently, last year, I started learning Odissi dancing. So that's kind of similar to Bharatanatyam, but different. It's from East India. And it's the one that wears the crown on their head. So they're very notable for that. And I've always wanted to learn it since I was a kid because I saw Rani Mukherjee do it. She's a trained Odissi dancer. And I thought, oh, that looks very pretty. So when we got a teacher here in Winnipeg, I decided to take classes with her.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so exciting. But what is it about Indian classical dance that has made you the most passionate about it and why you've continued doing it for so long?
I think it's the complexity. And it's not just dance. It's not just you go to class and you learn a new dance right from the start and you keep learning dances. That's a lot to it. There's some math to it. So in Kathak, we have different cycles or different cycles of different beats or time measures. So the first one's Teental that we learn, which is 16 beats. And then you learn Japtal, which is 10 beats. But all the pieces that we do have to fit perfectly into a 16-beat cycle or a 10-beat cycle or whatever beat cycle that we do. And we need to learn it. We need to learn how to say it. We need to learn how to count it and to work out how it fits in those 16 beats. So there's mathematics to it. There's lots of history to it. We don't just teach you the dance. We teach you the history. And it's not recent history. It's ancient history because Indian classical dance was estimated to begin into 400 BCE. So we're learning about all the history, the different phases of Kathak, the similarities between the other 8 Indian classical dance styles that there are, and how it's progressed and changed throughout the centuries. So it's a lot that we pass on.
Wow, so you don't just go to school to just learn the dance. You know all about that dance and you're an all-rounder.
Exactly, yeah.
That's wonderful. And as someone who performs and teaches, why do you believe it's so important to keep this dance style alive and teaching about it?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, so Indian classical dance has been around for since 400 BCE. So it's a lot of culture and traditions and knowledge that's being passed down. And that's not something that we want to lose. So it's very important to keep passing on that knowledge throughout the generations And even now being here in Canada, it's lots of families who are immigrating from India, they want to still stay connected to the roots. They want their students to learn about their roots and their culture. And they don't have that easily accessible as in India. There's so many dance schools. But coming here, they want to keep their child connected in some way. So it's another way of keeping children connected to their culture, being thousands of miles away from home, from their home country. And an interesting thing about that is I'm not directly from India. My parents are from South Africa, and my great-grandparents are from India. So we can see how that tradition has passed all around the world, still down through the generations. So it's a good way to keep in contact with someone's heritage and culture. It's also important to teach others about their culture. So we do many workshops in the city. We do dance at many events. We have people from all cultures coming to our school wanting to learn how to dance and learn about Indian classical dance. So it's sharing our knowledge with the community as well.
Oh, that's amazing. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And what do you envision the future of classical dance to look like, and where do you want to see it happen in the future?
Right now, I believe things are being more of a fusion-based dance style. We see many like Bollywood movies using Indian classical dancing to their music. So it's a fusion, and that's what many students want these days. We have many people coming to us not wanting to learn strict classical, but wanting to learn a bit of a Bollywood fusion. And so we do offer that, but I do believe it's still important to keep the tradition going and learn the basics. So if we do have anyone coming to us for classical Bollywood, we'll still teach little basics here and there, but we'll fuse it to a Bollywood song. But I do believe that the future is going towards those fusions.
Okay.
But I do hope that people continue to stay interested in pure Indian classical dance, that we are able to teach. And we're actually getting a lot more older people, like people in their 20s and 30s coming. Like we've had at least 20 people join our school in the last year for Kathak, like 20 adult Kathak dancers, new ones. So I believe that the older generations, and I shouldn't say older, the adults are becoming more interested in the pure classical dance. So I do see it being, at least here in Canada and here in Winnipeg, right now I see it being passed on through more adult students. Continuing to learn. But then I hope they would, when they have children, I hope they would put their children into Kathak dancing and continue it that way.
So could you please tell us a little bit about Indian classical dance and the differences between each one?
Okay. So I'm not an expert on this topic, but I will tell you what I know. So Indian classical dance is believed to have begun around 400 BCE. And there are, I believe it's 8, some say 8, some say 9 different styles of Indian classical dance.
Okay.
The most well-known ones are Kathak and Bharatanatyam. So Bharatanatyam originates in southern India, Kathak from northern India. And they're completely different styles, but they do share similarities. So it is believed that these styles even the other styles began by mimicking statues that they found in ancient temples.
Oh, wow.
And then they use those to tell stories of the different gods and goddesses of the Hindu religion. And so that's where the similarities are. And there are what we call hastas or mudras. So there's the hand movements. So like this is pataka and tripataka.
Oh, okay.
And there are 64 different types of hand movements that we use.
Okay.
And they're actually used throughout all of the different Indian classical dance styles. So that's how it began. And there's also Odissi, there's Mohini Attam, there's Kathak Kali. Kathak Kali is interesting, where if you ever see pictures or videos, they wear all the face makeup and the large costumes. And they're also originating in southern India.
Okay.
Odissi is known for the crown, so it's like a flower crown with a little tip on top. It's actually kind of similar when you watch it to Bharatanatyam, but they have their differences. So Odissi uses a lot of hip movements. They have a posture called Tribangi, where their head is tilted one way, the hips are tilted the other way, and the eyes are looking a different way. So it's three or Tribangi.
Oh,
okay. Very different.
Is it also based on the statues that we're talking?
Yeah. So I think most of the Indian classical dance styles are based on that.
Okay.
And they also, I'm also taking Odissi lessons, so we've also gone through all the hastas, so like the pataka, tripataka, all 64 hand movements we had to do in Odissi as well.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah. And then there's Kuchipudi, I believe that was one. Oh, I'm blanking now. Mohiniyattam. I can't list them off the top of my head right now, but there are 8 or 9 depending on what you're reading. Another interesting thing is that all of them, except for one style, they all wear gunguru or bells around their ankles.
Okay.
So these are like tiny brass bells like this big. And I believe Kathak wears the most. So normally, on average, our students wear 100 on each ankle.
Oh, wow.
And it's kind of braided into this rope. And so you just string them around your ankle. But the more advanced dancers can wear up to 200. So right now, I'm at 150. I've tried 200, but they actually don't stay on very well.
Okay.
So 150 is my max right now.
Is there a significance as to why bells were worn in these dances?
It's just to kind of accompany and accentuate the dance moves, especially for Kathak, we have all this different footwork.
Mm-hmm.
So with our footwork, like it's kind of like tap dancing where you need your tap shoes to kind of give out your sound.
Okay. Yeah.
Similar to our Kathak footwork. And we have different patterns of footwork that we do.
Okay.
And all the other dance styles, we all dance bare feet except for the bells. And the bells are needed we'll have strong footsteps or some other kind of foot movements we need to be accentuated with the bells. The other styles like Bharatanatyam, Odissi, they don't wear 100, but they wear, I think, around 25 or 50 around each ankle.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And in each different dance, there is a certain outfit that is worn. Is there a certain significance between the differences between them?
I think it's mainly... This is me just going based off what I know. I think it's mainly depending on the region it came from.
Okay.
So I've seen, Kathak Kali also, that originated in southern India and Kerala, and they wear the large outfits. And their whole point is to tell stories. So I should mention Katha means story, and Kathakar means storyteller. So that's where Kathak Kali and Kathak get their name from.
Okay.
So Kathak Kali needs these elaborate outfits to tell their story. Bharatanatyam, all dance styles actually have worn, I believe they've worn saris at some point in time.
Okay.
And then over the centuries, they've adapted their own style of costume. So Bharatanatyam, they wear a modified sari. But now modern days, it comes in different components that you just kind of tie around your body together. Odissi actually wears something very similar to them. Kathak, we wear a blend of outfits. Sometimes we'll wear an anarkali style, which is like the long dress. Sometimes we'll wear a lehenga. And I know some of the other dance styles, they wear similar outfits, depending.
So you've mentioned that Kathak means storytelling. Could you tell us a little bit about the history of Kathak?
Yeah. So Kathak, again, originated from 400 BCE. That's its estimated time. It has gone through a range of different modifications over the centuries. So the first era is called the Bhakti era, which is where basically the Kathak cars, so those are the storytellers, they would travel between the villages and they would use dance to tell out the Hindu religion stories.
Oh, wow.
Religious stories. And they would wear the Hindustani style of outfit, which is either a sari or a lehenga style outfit. And then came the Mughal era. So that was around, I believe, 1800s. I'll have to double check that time period. But that was when India was had a lot of like Mughal emperors come in. There's a lot of Persian influence to the dance, and so the Kathak dancers now were the dancers inside those Mughal courts dancing for the kings and other royalty. And so that's when the style of outfit changed. So now they wore the anarkali style, which is a long dress.
Okay.
With a vest around, and sometimes they'd wear the chunni or the scarf pinned into their hair. And then afterwards was the colonial era. So that was when the British colonized India. And they saw Indian classical dancing as dirty. So they saw it as like a style of prostitution. They called them nautch dancers. It wasn't something that they liked. So they tried to get rid of it. But many of these schools and gurus kept teaching their students, mainly their family members. If they had students, they would try, but mainly family members. And they taught them privately and continued their traditions that way. And then there's post-colonial era where we tried to revive Kathak. So there were like degrees being made at universities. It was being used in movies. It was becoming more popular and being spread around.
So if somebody is interested in learning more about Indian classical dance, how should they do so?
YouTube videos are the best place. If you're not sure, if you want to learn something and you're not sure what style, I would start with looking at YouTube. If you want to get in contact with us, you can find us in Instagram. Just search India School of Dance. Or you can Google search us, India School of Dance Winnipeg, or email us at indiasch@mymts.net.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your insight.
Of course, and thanks for
I really hope that this valuable information that Shavira so lovingly shared with us inspires others to look into Indian classical dance and may become a dancer in the future. Thank you so much for watching Multicultural channel.